I'm Mary Chia, and welcome to Pro Tip Tuesday. This video is the first of a two-part series called Because You're Worth It, where we talk about charging your worth and the value of your services. Today, we're going to tackle the age-old question, what do I charge for my services? You've probably heard the saying, charge what you're worth. But what does that even mean? Pricing your services and charging for them is a pretty personal thing. It varies from person to person and from market to market. However, there are some objective guidelines that you can use to help determine your correct number, and that's what I'm going to walk you through today. Fair warning, there is a little bit of math involved, but I promise, even if you feel like this about math, you'll be able to quickly and easily pulse check your numbers for your market in less than 5 minutes. And yes, you can use a calculator. For this exercise, you'll need 3 things: your revenue for the last year, your expenses for the last year, and the internet.
Let's do this.
No. It's not that kind of math. First thing we're going to do is use the internet to look up the median income for your city or the closest big city to you. As long as the number is from the last couple of years, that's perfect for this exercise. The median income is the mid-range income, so right between the highest income and the lowest income. We're going to take that median income and find out the weekly and the hourly median income for somebody in your city. So take that number that you just found and divide it by 52. This number is your city's weekly median income. Next, take the weekly median income and divide that by 40. That is the median hourly income for someone who works full-time in your city. This is a good estimate of how much an average person's time is worth according to your city's standard of living. You want to see an example with real numbers? The median income in Denver, Colorado in 2018 was $68,377. We divide that by 52 to get a median weekly income of $1,315. Then we divide that weekly median income by 40 to calculate a median hourly income of $32.88. Let's just round that up to $33 to make the math a little bit easier. So this is the mid-range hourly rate of someone living in Denver. Now that you know the mid-range income for someone living in your city, let's calculate your hourly revenue for the last year. I recommend using just your service prices for this exercise. Don't include tips because tips are optional. They vary between person to person and service to service. Divide your total revenue by 52 to get your average weekly revenue. Then divide your average weekly revenue by 40 to get your average hourly revenue. Going back to our example of a nail professional living in Denver, if she made $75,000 in revenue last year, that means she generated $1,422 per week and $36 of revenue per hour. But we're not going to stop there. Because it costs money to run a nail business, we're going to include our operating costs as well. But instead of just focusing on the cost per service of product, we're going to include the total operating costs for your business. This could include booth rent, supplies, continuing education, merchant fees, things like that. Grab your expenses, and then we're going to use the same formula to figure out your hourly operating costs. You can probably do this blindfolded by now. Divide last year's total operating costs by 52 to get your weekly operating costs. Then divide your weekly operating costs by 40 to get your hourly operating costs. Going back to Nail Pro on the Block in Denver, last year she invested $7,800 in booth rent, $3,000 on supplies, $1,200 on continuing education, and $2,025 on merchant fees. So her total operating cost last year was $14,025. Cool? Divide that by 52 and we see that our friend spent $270 per week to keep her business open. Divide 270 by 40 and her hourly operating costs were $675. We're almost at the end. This is the fun part, the big reveal. Subtract your hourly operating costs from your hourly revenue. This is a far more accurate number when you are trying to compare your pricing for your market. So based on our example, our Denver nail professional friend nets $29.25 per hour, which is a little lower than the city's median income of $33 an hour. Okay, so how do your numbers look? Are you happy with them? Do you meet or exceed the median income in your city? If so, let's take a minute to celebrate. Round of applause for you. Whew. I'm hot now. But what happens if you're not happy with the number that you came up with? I still recommend celebrating because there's only one way to go, and that is up. Now you know what your time is truly worth. In our next video, I'm going to be talking about a few simple tweaks and adjustments that you can make to increase the value of your services, raise your prices, and attract new clients who are willing to pay those new prices. Definitely something to celebrate. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you for the next one.